Hello, welcome to Laser Cut and Fly. On this channel, I'm going to show you how to get free plans off the internet, how to convert them for your laser, how to cut out the components and build and fly your own aircraft. And with old timers like this, I'll show you how to convert to radio control. Let's get going. Hello, welcome back to Laser Cut and Fly RC Models. I'm the Laser Model Guy. Today what I want to do in today's video is get the files that we made of the KeilKraft Contestor on Lightburn and send those to the laser, get all the components cut out. I'll show you how I do that and I'll show you what that looks like. And then we're going to start looking at how we're going to build the KeilKraft Contestor. Let's go and do that. So it's time to cut out the components, and what we'll do is we will open and we'll start with sheets 1 and 2. Okay, now we've got two layers. We've got the black outer layer and the blue writing. So we want to set those up now. Now from a test I've done earlier, because this is 1/8 balsa or 3.2mm balsa, what I'm going to do up here is change the speed to 500 millimeters per second, and I'm going to change the power to 80%. I'm going to go to constant power mode and turn off air assist because we don't have air assist. Number of passes will be 1, and so the black layer will be running on those settings. Now the blue layer, I want that to be running at 600 millimeters per minute, and we'll leave that at 20%. Air assist off and constant power mode on, so the blue layer will be running at those settings. Okay, now if we just So that's these first two sheets cut, and you can see they're just popping straight out, some of them in the centre there. Yeah, they're absolutely perfect. Look at that. Okay, so I'm going to cut out the nose, or the bulkhead that sits at the nose that I'm going to fasten the motor onto. Before I do that, I'm going to run a test to see what the settings should be, because this is going to be 3mm plywood, and so far I've only been cutting balsa. So if we come up to laser tools and we go to material test, I've got one that I set up earlier ready to do this, which is 3 to 4mm plywood, and what I've got is the minimum speed is going to be 100 millimeters a minute. Maximum will be 500 millimeters a minute, and I'll be going from 10% power to 90% power. So I'll do that now, and I'll show you what the results are and how we're going to set up to cut out our nose. So this is now running the test, so we work out what the correct parameters will be for the plywood. Okay, so this is the test. A lot of the squares fell out when I lifted it, and they've fallen into the honeycomb. I'll get those out in a minute, but you can see it's cut cleanly through. Some of these on the bottom row here at 100 millimeters per minute are marked around the outside, and we don't want that. We want a nice clean cut. Now this was 2 passes. Test that later, but so what I'm looking at here is around about there. See that one that wants to just pop out? There you go. It's just popped out now. That's 300 millimeters per minute at around 50% or 60% it says. So we're going to run 60%, 300 millimeters per minute with 2 passes, and that'll give us a nice clean cut and a nice clean surface as well. So that's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is I've set this up at 300 millimeters a minute, maximum power 70%. I've got constant power mode on and air assist off because we don't have air assist, and I've put number of passes 2, and we're going to cut out the nose now for the motor mount for the very front of the aeroplane. So click OK. I'll turn on the extractor. And away we go. Okay, so it's finished cutting. Let's have a look. And it's popped straight out. Oh, and the little there's one little bit there that's still in. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Absolutely perfect. And the way I'm going to mount that is I'm going to put the motor on. I'll put these cables through there. And then the motor's going to sit on, and the screws are going to go straight through the wood into the motor, so there'll be no support. In fact, I'll just pop one of those in straight away so we can see. So that'll just screw straight onto the back like that, and that'll then fasten onto the front as the nose, or as the bulkhead at the end of the nose of the aircraft. Okay, so let's get on with cutting the rest of the part. And these are the last components to cut out. We've got the body formers, 2 main formers there, and I've made this platform here which is going to hold the receiver, and that will sit in the bottom of the formers here. So I'll cut those out. I've set up the 2 layers, one for cutting and one for writing or engraving. So let's press play, or let's press start, and get these cut out. Oh, let's choose our device. And away we go. Well, let's just frame first. Yep, all in place. So that's all the components cut out. These are the last ones, and you can see they're all, there's a little bit of waste there, but I'll use that as we build the aeroplane. And we've got this one, that's going to be our platform, and there's our second former. So the next thing to do is for us to build the aeroplane. So we've got all the components cut out, and I've laid them all out, and I'm going to make the aeroplane on this nice flat cutting sheet here. Now before we can do that, we're going to need either a plan or something to make the aeroplane on. So I'm going to put a sheet of cardboard. I'm going to put a sheet of cardboard down. Now this is very flat and smooth, and that's very important because we're going to build the side of the aircraft on this sheet. Now the way you would normally do this is you would use a plan, and I've got an old plan here, KeilKraft Contestor, and what you would do normally is lay that plan out, pin it down, and then lay the components on top of the plan and build the aircraft up that way. Now, because of the way we're doing this, and I've shown you how to get free plans off the internet, I'm assuming that most people who are following this won't have access to the original plan or an A0 printer. So what I'm going to do is use a different method. I'm going to put a roll or a sheet of paper down, and then I'm going to go back to our plan on Lightburn, draw a centre line straight through the fuselage so that I can measure either side, and by doing that I'll be able to work out exactly where along the plan all our components go and how high, and where they have to be positioned, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. First of all, using a roll of liner paper, I'm just going to fasten this down and I'm going to build the fuselage right here. So that's my plan. So I'll just put a little weight on there to hold that, and I'll trim the paper and I'll come back when that's all set up. So when we come back into Lightburn and we look at our plan of the Contestor, you can see that all the way through the original plan there is a centre line, and it's marked up at the front here. You can see the C and the L, and what that means is that any of our components we can measure exactly how far it is by using the measuring tool. I can see that F1, the end of F1 is just 11 millimeters above the centre line, and the other end of F1 is 28 millimeters above the centre line. If we look at F4, we can see that the front corner is 75 millimeters above the centre line, and at this end we can see that it is 56 millimeters above the centre line. So what we're going to do is, on our sheet of paper, I'm going to replicate that centre line, and then we're going to start putting our components on, and make sure that the general form remains all the correct distances either side, top and bottom, of that centre line, and by doing that we should be fine. Okay, so we're going to replicate that centre line on here now, and then we're going to be working either side of it, putting our components on and measuring. As we put the components on as well, we'll draw around them so that by the time we finish this process we will have a plan ready for our next build if we ever want to build this aircraft again. So with that in mind, we need to make sure that we've got enough headroom from our centre line. So if you're going to try this method, make sure that you measure from the centre line to the highest point. I've done that, and so it's 89 millimeters. I've got to come down from the edge of the card, which is there. So I'm going to come down 89 millimeters, put my centre line, and then I know that if I build up, I'll be able to fit the whole aircraft or the whole fuselage on this sheet. I'll give myself a little headroom, so it'll be a little bit more than 89 millimeters. But there we go. So there's the edge of the cardboard there. So if I come down, I don't know, maybe 100 millimeters. We'll give it 100 millimeters, I think. And then I'll just draw a nice centre line. Now I know to to the purist, the centre line should be broken with long and short dashes, but I want to be able to measure at every point, so I'm not standing on ceremony. So we've got our centre line drawn, just mark that up, CO. And now we can start measuring and putting our components on. Okay, I've just taken the components that make the nose end of one side of the fuselage along with the cabin and F4 across the top. I've just taken those out of the, I've pressed them out, and what I'm going to do now, I've already measured the nose, or this is F6, which is the side of the fuselage that comes up against the nose. Now this back edge is 34mm long, 14mm sits above the centre line and 20mm below. So what I'm going to do is just place that into position at one end, fasten it on, pin it down, and then I'll be able to start working from there, working back, setting the height of these. But I'll also be putting in some of the uprights and some of the formers in order to help with setting that distance as we move along. So I'll just get some of that pinned down, and then I'll bring you back and we'll have a look at it, and I'll show you where we are with that. So I've measured these components out from the centre line, and I've fastened these down, and I'm going to now position this bottom spar here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to measure from the nose. I'm going to measure a point down here where this former would sit, because the former is the key now to setting out the cabin and the bottom of the aeroplane. So I've measured, and I've got 186 from the centre at the front of the nose to the bottom of the former, and 197 to the centre of the former. And what that does is that puts the former right there. And so by doing that, I can now position this bottom part of the nose, and I can fasten that down and connect it. And then once that's done, I can then set the position of the top of the cabin with the top of the former there. And so all of that will nicely fall into place. These will connect on, and we'll have the top of the cabin in place as well. So I'll just show you how we do that now. There we go. So I can now mark where this is going to be. Just mark it with a pen. And now all I will do is I will now glue that in place, and then we'll be set to arrange the rest of the cabin and the nose, or the shape, the outline shape of the nose, and then we can start putting in the strengtheners. So using the former to set the height of F4 at the front end, I've placed the former in position, and that just fits nicely in. So F4 is the correct height at the front end, and at the back this tip here is 58mm from the centre line. So I've placed F4 in, and then what that means is that we'll next be able to put in the cabin window, which will fit just nicely into there, and we'll start to get the shape now at this front end. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll bring you back and I'll show you how we progress further down. At the moment we're just doing the outline, just getting the aeroplane into, or the fuselage into the correct position, and then once we've done that and we put our uprights and our strengtheners in, we'll be able to draw around the whole thing, and we'll come away with this with a full plan of the contestor as we've laid it out. So that's what we're on with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plan out where the bottom of the fuselage sits or goes. It's going to be 1/8 balsa all the way to the end. Now the length of the fuselage in total is 852. So I'm going to mark that out now on our plan on the centre line. So 852, that's how I've measured off the plan that we've downloaded on Lightburn. So 852 is to there, so we know how long the aeroplane is, comes to that point there. So if we get our balsa, and we can then cut that off. I'll cut it off just a little bit long, and we'll trim it once we get the curve, the proper curve on it. I'll trim it to the correct size then. So I'll just trim it a little long first. There we go. Now that will just fit straight in there, and that will be fastened, or I'll be gluing that in a minute. And then the bottom line seems to be coming quite close to that, but we do know there is a curve in the bottom, so I'm going to set that curve now. And to start with, we'll have our former number 2. That will be sitting right there, so that already brings the bottom down a little and sets the start for the curve. And then I've measured at 421, we are 43 millimeters below the center line. So I'll make that mark as well, and we'll be able to begin to set this curve. So at 421, just measure. I have to tip it on its side because we've got pins in the nose. So 421. We are 43 millimeters below the centre line, so just mark that in. One, 2, 3. So there we are. So straight away we can start to set our curve now. So I'll just put a couple of pins in so that you can see where I'm going with this. So that one will be there, and then the next one will be a little bit higher and a little bit higher, and you can see this curve that we're getting now. So I'm going to make a few more measurements, and I'm going to put this bottom spar in place, or put this bottom longer on, it's called, in place, and then I'll bring you back when I've done that, and we'll take it from there. So I'll just make this strengthening piece that comes down there. And this will start to give us a bit of and there we go. We now have upright supports in this section, and I've measured them out on our plan at 39, 88 and 138 from the tip of the nose. So I'll just mark those on, and then we'll be able to put those uprights in, and that sets the position then for the diagonal strengtheners that you see on the Contestor plan. So I'll do that now. 138. Okay, so I'll put those in. Shape. I'll cut that at the right angle. That won't go straight in. Cut one for 88. Nicely. Okay, and we've got some little formers that fit on the outside of this. Once we've done both sides of the fuselage, there are little formers which curve, which give the nose a nice rounded shape, but we put those on afterwards because once I've completed this side, I'll build the second side on top of this so they're both identical. And then we put the formers on the outside of each of those to give the nose a nice rounded shape. But we'll come to that in a while. So I'm going to So I've measured out where all of these braces touch the top and the bottom, and I've marked them all up. And I'm just putting the last of those in, and then that will be this side more or less complete, because the formers will then sit in where they go. With form number 2 behind there, but I'll be then wanting to make the next side. So what I'll do is I'll just finish off these, and then I'll finish for today, and then on the next video what I'll do is I will show you how we make the second side by putting it on top, and then I'll make the wing. I'll bring the two sides together, put the formers in, and I'll show you the completion of the whole frame. That'll be in the next video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll show you the full airframe all completed in the next video. I look forward to showing you that. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye.